Imagine if you could easily find solutions to make your region or city smarter, greener, better connected, more social, and closer to citizens. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform can help you access knowledge about the latest policy trends, discover expert-validated good practices from all over Europe, find solutions in our peer review, get tailored support from our expert team. We can connect you with the right people and organizations. Together, we will find ways to solve your region's or city's challenges. Start your policy learning journey today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our online event called No One Left Behind, our online workshop for today. People are still joining, so we just have a few words of introduction right now to explain a bit how it works, and during this time the participants will have the opportunity to join. We have something over 80 registered participants for today, so that's a good number. So we expect a good attendance today. My name is Luc Schmerber. I'm a thematic expert of the Policy Learning Platform, and I will be co-moderating this meeting today with my colleague Mart, who is also with me here in the room.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you for being with us. And we get the support from our colleague Lotte, who is you can see Lotte, who is running the technique behind, and you can access her also by the chat if there is any problem. You can use the chat function to interact with us. So if you're used to Zoom, probably, I don't know, it used to be very popular when COVID started, and now people are moving to Teams, but I guess it's similar functionalities. So Lotte, she writes already in the chat. You can contact her if anything, any specific technical issues might appear. You can also use the chat to interact with us during the meeting in general. So to ask questions, or to make a comment. But contrary to our webinars, for those who are familiar with our webinars, contrary to the webinars, you can also just raise your hand and take the stage and speak directly. So you don't have to go through the chat and ask your question through the chat, and we read them out loud. You can directly interact with us. There will be plenty of time to do that. There will. After each of the presentations, we will have time for asking questions, and then we have at the end of each of the sessions, we also have discussion times. Today, also for interaction, we will use another interaction tool. You might know it already. It's Slido, and maybe Lotte, we can start the first Slido questions just to get the people. Used to it, so to see how that works, where you can join. So you see you have the QR code, or you can also join the Slido through the link that Lotte did send in the chat, and you can answer the question. So we will have several moments of interaction using Slido. So I would encourage you to try and to answer already this first question. Where are you coming from? Which will help us build the word cloud, just to see if it works for you. And anytime during the meeting when we will be starting an interaction with Slido, we will have the link in the chat, for instance, and we can see the results appearing here. So we'll just, I see also people, Kerstin, writing through the chat. This is also perfectly fine. We collect the input on both sides. So it seems to work, but just a little bit. We have seeing with people from Serbia is still very prominent here on the word cloud, which is one of the new countries from last year in the program. So we're also always happy to have those new countries joining us. Yeah, different France, Poland, Cyprus, Slovenia. Yeah, with 80 registered participants, normally we have people from many different places. Hey, that works. Bulgaria, appearing bigger, Romania, Estonia. So it seems to work. So this is the tool we will use at different occasions during the meeting to interact with you, not only in the word cloud version, but in different versions. So nice that it works. So yeah, I think now we can. Yeah, there's still some people joining, but we can start with some of the content. I will then give you some information about the meeting and some of the contents of today, and some information also on the let's say the start with the policy learning platform itself. So hope it works with the slide. Sorry. The agenda of today, we will have two main parts in terms of content. The first part dedicated to preventing early school leaving, which is one of the big topics when addressing the issues of the inactivity or unemployment of young people. So this is more on the prevention side. And we have a short break, and after that we will have the second part, which is more about reintegrating the needs, the young people which are not in education, employment, or training to the labor market or to the education market. I should have included that here. Each of those two sessions will start with some presentations of the speakers. They will be able to introduce them at the beginning of each of the sessions. Then they will introduce themselves in more details when they present. And then we will have a second part dedicated to discussion and the validation of policy recommendation. It works like this. We have had several events in the past dedicated to this issue, to early school leaving and to the needs, and we have collected a lot of information from those events and compiled them into a series of policy recommendations, which we would like today to share with us, and we will ask you using Slido to comment on them. And we will use this information to compile a policy brief, which we will publish in the coming weeks, not too long after the meeting in the next week. So we will use the input that we can collect from you today to issue this, to complete and finalize this policy brief on preventing early school leaving and reintegrating needs to the labor market. So it will be used in different ways, and of course the recordings of the meetings and so on and the presentations from today will be available. So there will be a lot of learnings out of this meeting, and I hope everybody will get a lot out of it. You today by being part of it, but also the larger community when they will be able to access the materials. Before we go into the content of those sessions, I would like to say a few words about the policy learning platform services. We still have in our events newcomers, many times newcomers, so we like to remember about the services. Those of you who are already engaged in the ongoing projects or probably a bit better aware of it, but still. There are two main actions in Interreg Europe: the projects and the policy learning platform. Projects is what you are used to know from all the Interreg programs, so the partnerships of Europe and region. It's a bit specific in Interreg Europe because we focused on this policy making aspect. But basically, it's a small group and they work on a specific topic over 4 years. This is a classical approach to Interreg, whereas the platform involves the whole community, anyone interested in regional policies, and we try to offer policy solution and expert advice to all European regions beyond the ones engaged in the project. This is the principle of capitalization, let's say. So we have the input from the project. It's not our main input, but not the only one. We collect good practices, we collect results. We build up a community thanks to that, and we can use this to offer platform services to the whole community. And the platform services are also available to, it's not only for the regions or the organization outside of the project, it's also available for those involved in projects. This is the team of the platform. Nice picture from our latest annual event in Poland, Krakow. So we are all people addressing all the thematic priorities of Interreg Europe. So smart, green, social governance, integrated urban development. So it's a broad range of topics. What are our services? We provide the good practices and the good practice database. We those are part of the knowledge services. We publish different thematic document stories and policy briefs, like the one I mentioned before. We have the community events, so thematic events and webinars like we have today. We also have on-site workshops every year. We have an annual event, so where you can meet all the other people of the community. I think we had over 400 participants in Krakow recently. And we have some expertise support, like peer reviews matchmaking, where we provide directly, it's bilateral interaction. Let's say we provide directly services to one region, to one applicant. Just some examples. I mentioned the policy solutions. So it's about good practices in our database, over 3,500 validated good practices in all the policy areas, policy briefs, stories, and also a lot of webinar recordings, events like we have today. All of this is accessible. You need to register and you need to be a member of the community, and through your account you get access to everything. Our events, I was not sure, over 20,000 people in the community right now, over 15,000 organizations, a lot of policy learning events already organized over the past 7-8 years. So a lot of like-minded people to exchange with. The events, you find them from the website. You can see here some examples. You can select when you land on our homepage, of the homepage of the Interreg Europe program. You have the upcoming events, and you can take either all events, or here, if you select platform, you have the events organized by the policy learning platform. So there's always something happening in all of our thematic priorities. I was mentioning the expert support. I want to go a bit more in details here. You have access to that, obviously, from our homepage, from the Interreg Europe website. You can get directly access to the expert support. I wanted to mention the peer reviews because we don't have, the program doesn't have money anymore for new projects. There have been 3 calls, and a lot of projects have been selected, and they are running. But there are also ways to have access to deep exchange with other regions, which let's say something like mini projects. Those are the peer reviews where we can visit physically or visit online a host region who has a policy challenge to discuss, and we bring there 4 to 6 experts to discuss this specific policy challenge. I will show some examples later on, and the one you can see the picture from here is a peer review on La Réunion on NEETS in November 23. We had a large delegation. Some of our speakers were member of were member of this delegation. And this is one of the sources of the knowledge on this topic we will present and discuss today. So peer reviews are for public authorities, which are responsible for some policy development, including the new countries that joined us from Albania to Ukraine. We will have first peer reviews in Ukraine this year. Priority is given to non-project partners, but project partners are also eligible as long as the topic that they want to discuss is not overlapping with the projects. Oh, sorry, I went a bit fast. Over 100 peer reviews. You have here a map where they have taken place all over Europe and some clusters, but including outermost regions like La Réunion and Azores. Of course, you can get back to me and Mart after the meeting, to have more details on the peer reviews if you have specific questions. Also here the links to where you can get access to the newsletter, then our email, our contact, and the news and events. I showed that before, so all the information available there. So this is about the policy learning platform. I wanted to say also a few words about the thematic context why we're having this meeting and where we come from. I will not spend much time on the European policies. You probably, as interested people, you know that. So we are moving on the European level in the framework of the youth guarantee, the reinforced youth guarantee, which aims to ensure employment, continued education, apprenticeship, access to traineeship for young people until 29. So it's a relatively broad scope, 15 to 29. And we have European targets for early school leavers, so people who leave education too early without finishing it. There is a longer definition of it. I did take all the definition. And we have EU targets, which you can read here. And if the figures look good, like for instance, for the early school leavers, because the 23 latest figures I could retrieve is close to the target. Well, there are still strong regional and national variations, with many regions and many countries which are above the target and others which are below the target. It's similar from the NEETs. We have a European target which is of 9% by 2030. Some countries have reached it, but on the European level, we don't have it. We have projects working on the topics, several ones from different perspectives. At work from NEETS has been the first one, and we have speakers from this environment, from this project today. And there are other one. We don't have time today to go into details. I invite you to have a look on our website on these projects and on what they are doing. So they will keep publishing good practices on a regular basis, and they will be integrated to our good practice database. And we have some other projects which work on similar or connected topics like social cohesion and the integration of migrants. Can be obviously young migrants also. So we have now the social thematic objective is new to the program for this period, but we have a number of projects clustering around it. And we had already 3 peer reviews on it in La Réunion 2 times, one peer review and a follow-up peer review on the topic, and one in Schleswig-Holstein in Germany. And we will most likely in October have another one in Poland addressing, it's a typo, and how to integrate young people with mental health issues to the labor market. So this is a bit of same topic, but with a different angle. Just showing some pictures from the peer review, quick slides on La Réunion. I mentioned it before. We will get back to the recommendation afterwards, so I will not go into details. But as you can see from each slide, you can see on the bottom, then you can access from our website or directly when you will have the slides after the meeting from here to reports and the learnings from those peer reviews. So that's a lot of material available there. And this was the follow-up meeting in La Réunion and the one also in Schleswig-Holstein in Germany. So a lot of material that we collected and which provided us the basis for the policy recommendation that we will be dealing with today. So there was a lot of things, but I think it's important to talk about our services, to know that you have access to them. And now we can go into the first topic about the early school living. We have three speakers which are with us. So we have Gunnar from Sweden, we have Pamela from Malta, and we have Chantal from Belgium. And Chantal was part in all the three peer reviews I mentioned before. Gunnar was with us, and Pamela was not with us, but there were also people from Malta who joined us in those peer reviews. So there are regions, organizational people dealing actively with the topic within our communities. So I talked already a bit too much, probably. Apologies for that, and I would then go right into the topic of early school living and preventing early school living with our first presentation from Gunnar. So Gunnar, please, you can take the stage.
Thank you, Luc, and I will start with trying to share some slides with you. So we'll start it now.
Yeah, you just have to go in presentation mode.
Yeah, one moment. Okay.
No, we see the two slides. You have to do the same thing that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, perfect.
Fine. So, and I will say that I can see you right now. So if there are any questions, you have to shout or something. So I know.
Yeah, it's normal. It's Zoom. You are focused on your presentation.
Yeah, fine. Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak a little bit about our work here in Sweden and our try to reduce the early school living and more or less get completed education. I will say something about this pretty soon. I will also say that in our case at SALAR, which is the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Region, this question about completed education is very important, not only through what the individual are gaining from this, but also the municipalities and the national level when it comes to opportunities to prevent crime, to get more people skilled and for a skill supply in society, but also for at the individual level with preventing crime, as I said, but also to prevent bad health and also to get ashore of a foothold in the labor market. So we have different kind of issues why we are dealing with this. So I will say something shortly about the Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, because we are an organization that we provide an organization for our members, which are the municipalities, 290 municipalities in Sweden and 21 regions. So we work with the member support, but also that we advocate questions for the municipalities and discussions about lawmaking and so on from the government when it comes to issues that are really important for local level and the municipalities there, but also on employer organizations. So we have different kind of roles in Sweden in this, but the work I'm going to tell you about right now is more connected to the member support. through different kind of projects that we have been running for several years right now. And to start with, I can say something about the Swedish school system and the value of education for us in Sweden. This is kind of a summary of the education system. We can see all the way from the preschool to the compulsory school to the upper secondary school and so on, and on to the higher education and labor market. And those kind of stop signs you see here, about 15%, although the pupils that have finished up the compulsory school have not done that with the degree that applies them for enables them to get the degrees for the upper secondary school. However, we have a construction there where those who have not been able to do this can do some kind of introductional programs instead and try to get the diplomas to get into the upper secondary school, the degrees to get into the upper secondary school. So we are testing different way of fixing this system, but overall we can say that 25% of all the pupils that are finishing up secondary school do that without a diploma, and this has been a problem for Sweden and for us for a long time now, and the figures are going a little bit up and down, but almost like this 25% over the years actually. So we can see that the early leavers then from school also gets into different groups, of course. Some of them get NEETs, some of them gets into the adult education, and some of them in the labor market, of course. But it's less and less that can do this without a diploma, actually. And then we also have a kind of a second chance schools and so on, so they can get a second chance to be able to do this. But it's not good enough, as we can see it. And of course, those who get the diploma, they go to higher education and they go to the labor market. So this is kind of a picture of the situation in Sweden. So due to this, we started the initiative Completed Education in 2013 from Salar. And we started by mapping and understanding the scope of early school living, because the understanding and the knowledge of this was kind of lacking. And we could see that other states, for example, the US, some of them in Great Britain and so on, has been working with these questions for a longer time than we had, and so that there are some learning to do. Also in Europe, we could see something with the Netherlands and so on. So we started mapping and understanding the scope. Then the next project, we built some knowledge around what works to do this. And then we started to the third level to kind of practice methods and strategies to get the municipalities and the regions to deal with these kind of questions. And I would say that one important thing that we have done all the way is to work in a multi-governmental approach with this. So we have the national, the regional, and the local level, and we are speaking all the time with each other. And we can also gain from different kind of results from the projects in different level and change the things that are not working on the right level, all the way out to the schools and the teachers and the pupils, actually. So these last two projects that we had, building capacity with focus on prevention and implementation and capacity building, up to projects that are running right now. They are more of a program to create a strategy on the local level to deal with these questions in a professional way with the staff, with the schools, but also with the management in the municipalities. So the whole level of command are so to speak involved in these projects. But the main goal, of course, has been to get more of the youngsters through the education system in a way that fits, so they can get a foothold in the labor market. So I've been working with, in total now, 130 municipalities within these projects in different ways. And that's a total of 50% of the municipalities in Sweden. But I would say that one of the key questions for us has been to have a good dialogue on the national, on the regional, and the local level when it comes to these questions. So we can see that staying one step ahead is perhaps one of the most important things that you can do, and to work with early interventions and reduce suffering for both individuals, but also cost for the society. And shortly, I will just show you how we have tried to move from the intervention level, which is quite expensive, to the more universal stage of measures that you can take on. But you still need some kind of interventions on each level, but more and more to press it down to the early warning systems that you can see in the bottom here, to have a safe and inclusive climate in the schools, to have a study and career guidance that are really, really good, and also cooperation with caregivers and families are, of course, also very important. So, I mean, all these kind of things that you can do on the universal level, we can see that through results from the project have made a difference for the schools, but also for the municipalities, and in the whole the whole family of these municipalities have been working with. So, but don't forget, you need to have a broad range of intervention based on a holistic perspective of students' needs on the yellow level, and of course, those who are not fitted in these other levels, they need intensive interventions on the individual level as well. So I will finish up by giving you a kind of advice, perhaps I could call it. We have been following the work from the Commission all the time, and also now when they 22 came up with the Pathways to School Success, a framework for actions in this question, we can see that we have been doing is clearly fitting in to what this framework is also asking for to do progress in. So, I mean, we can see that we can connect things that we have been doing in the schools towards the teachers, towards the local level, but also, of course, to build a kind of a new policy framework for these questions in Sweden overall, I would say. So I stop there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gunnar. It is my role here today to help moderate our Q&A sessions. So I will also encourage again the audience to ask your questions. You can do this in two ways. One is you can write to the chat, or what we prefer, of course, for more interactivity, if you raise this yellow hand you can have in Zoom, then this will indicate us that you want to say something, and we can then moderate and give you the word and the floor to ask the question directly. But to give you a few minutes to think about the questions you have for Gunnar and the Swedish example, I can ask the first question from my own side. So first of all, thank you very much for a very nicely put together presentation and a very clear presentation. I'm curious because you explained how you started this work already over a decade ago, and you were looking what other countries are doing and building it up over these 6 different projects. Do you think it's inevitable for other regions to also go through a decade of work and these projects, or can they somehow leapfrog? Take the best of what you learned already and do it maybe in a shorter time?
Yeah, I would say that you can do that. And that's why I also presented this last slide with the Pathways to School Success, because the advice there is really clear on what you need to do on the national level, on the local level, and on the school level. So, I mean, you can see different kind of ways you need to work through, and also. But I would also say this with to put up some early warning systems so you can be early with the interventions. That is one thing that I think that you could kind of take a shortcut with by trying to do this, because then you know what's going on, what's happening, and where, and why is it not a progress in this school, and why is it there, and so on. So you can start to share, and you can start to compare as well.
Thank you. I also see that Natalija has a question, so please feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, thank you. I would like to ask you about how you are organized in the view of financing, because in Slovenia, for example, it is very difficult to cooperate among the municipalities. So the question is, how did you organize the money that they should somehow participate in this probably common budget? I don't know. This is something what we would need.
Yeah, this is of course a tricky question, but I mean, we had the opportunity to use some of the ESF money in Sweden. So we have been able to use that to provide different kind of projects. But one important thing that we did with that was to set it up like a multi-level, multi-governance level the project. So we had from the beginning, we had 3 levels, and we said that you need to do this, you need to do that, and we can do this. And we share the whole so-called the goal and the what we wanted to achieve with the project. We had that discussion from the beginning, actually. So they knew about what kind of expectations were on the local level and so on. But the important thing is to share this kind of different approaches that we had, so it will be kind of fair for everyone to join this. So it's not only top down, it's not only bottom up, it's both, actually.
Okay. So may I ask you another question? Who was the initiator for this approach? Who started it? Is it your organization, or it is something what you found out? Because is it ministry or who?
I could say that it was kind of a meeting that we had with the different actors. That the government was one of them, the agency for the ESF was one of them, and our organization was another one. And then we also could see that at the same time there were kind of initiatives from the regions and the local authorities also in the same questions. So this was kind of a way to combine this in one project, actually. So we had kind of pre-discussions before as well. And we looked also upon, as I said, the Netherlands, because they had done similar things with they started 2007 with these kind of questions there. So they started earlier than we. So we had kind of a overview over Europe as well. So.
Okay. Thank you
for the question, Natalija. Thank you for the answer. Gunnar, maybe one more thing, because you also emphasized it in your answer to the first question, the sort of importance of these early warning systems. So maybe you can say a few words more about it. So what are the main early warning systems you use in Sweden, or which has proven to be most critical? If you can elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, I wouldn't brag and say that we have a good overview in Sweden, but I would say that there are 2 levels, actually, because you need to have it on the school and the municipality level to know how you, because the organization is the responsibility for the municipalities in Sweden. But at the same time, you need to collect some figures up to the national level as well. So you have a warning system both on the national figures, but most important to reach the pupils is to have it on the local level and school level. And this we can see is a responsibility in Sweden for the municipalities to build this up, but they need help from the national and the regional level to do this. So, yeah, so that's the data. And then when you come to the interventions, you need to have some know-how, even when to put in what at what time. So you know when what you're not doing too much at too early stage. You need to have the right approaches for the whole school approach, so to speak, when it comes to interventions.
That's the capacity building also, likely you have.
It's a capacity building, yeah. It's very much a capacity building, I would say. And the awareness of the importance of doing things, having things on place as a manager or politician or teacher.
Maybe just an additional question to conclude on the topic. Is there a unique system now in place that is shared by different actors, or is it very local each time? Are the data, the warning systems established on local level?
We have, if I understand your question, if there are unique for each municipality, or
something like this, or is there a national system that?
It's not. There's one national system, but we are not pleased with it. We would like it to be a little bit better than it is.
Okay.
So the municipality must do some things for themselves to be able to measure this at the right time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gunnar. So, Gunnar, you will stay with us a bit.
Yeah.
I guess so we might come back to Gunnar for questions toward the end of the session. But Mart, I suggest we move to the second speaker, and so if there are questions remaining, we can still get back to Gunnar at the end. So from Sweden, we move south to Malta. Which is a country who joined very early the youth guarantee, and they have some very elaborated strategies on this. And Pamela will tell us about more about how the issue is addressed on her island. Pamela, please take the stage.
Hello, good afternoon, and hello from sunny Malta. Okay, so basically, we I guess, a lot of you here on early school leaving. We have redefined and go by early leaving from education and training, because we want to be inclusive of vocational education. And we go by the definition of Eurostat. It is a big priority here in Malta, simply because we believe that there are many effects also within the economy, in the personal level, and at societal level. In fact, in 2023, we have launched a new policy, which was the second policy, and this new policy has been flagged with 5 other important policies within the national education strategies. So this is one of 5 flagged policies within our educational context. I can also share with you the link of the National Education Strategy, so you also can see exactly how it is flagged and the importance it was given. So basically, when this policy was out in 2023, we had been seeing quite a constant decrease in the rate of ELET, but Malta had not reached the 10% target of 2020. So this policy actually tried to see and evaluate why, and there was a lot of research around it. We are currently at 9.6% as a country, so we are fairly about 0.3% away from the EU average, but we want to reach that target way before the 9% 2030. So that is Malta's aim. The policy, on the other hand,
Pamela, don't forget to share your slides. I think you told a bit the first slides, but you haven't shared the slides.
No, I am sharing the slides. You cannot see them?
No, you're not sharing them.
Okay, so
I see it's just the first slides. I think it was fine to have your comments, but for the next ones.
Let me try again. Okay.
Yes, please. Yeah, now we see your screen. You just need to go in presentation mode.
I'm going again.
Yeah, perfect. We see them.
Okay, apologies for that.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So basically, I think I was here. So basically, this slide was recapturing like the descent of the percentages. And I was onto this slide where it speaks about the main aims and objectives of the policy, for the national policy for early leaving from education and training. And I was pleased to hear the previous presenter speaking, because two of our main aims are developing an early warning system to monitor and target ELET risk indicators, and fostering a whole school approach to tackle ELET. So those were our two main aims when this policy has been written. We have three pillars within the policy that is prevention, intervention, and compensation. And there are five actions in each pillar. However, for the first time, Malta took a different emphasis, and although the strategy is focused on the three pillars, we're giving a big emphasis to prevention. The reason being that when we were researching and we looked at we took cohorts and we went back in years. It was a big research project, and we wanted to identify the main reasons for our context, what they were. And we found that there was not just simply one reason for why a student ended up being an early school leaver, why they ended up being in that 18 to 24 category. So there was a myriad of risk indicators. So we built these strategies all around these risk indicators, and also tried to emphasize that we needed to prevent. For example, if we have a look at chronic absenteeism or low achievement, we had to prevent that. So we had to intervene early, and that's why the early warning system, and we had to prevent it, hence why the whole school approach, how to get support from everyone, not just school educators. Okay, now this was a big courageous shift, because when you speak, I mean, the early school leaving rate is collected from 18 to 24. So to convince also different partners and political partners and ministries, although I work in the ministry, to convince the different stakeholders, it was a big courageous action, because you are collecting a rate that is 18 to 24, but you're basing your policy from 0 to 24 and putting a big emphasis on prevention on the early years and primary years, to have your early warning system and to make sure that you will then end up in the future years with less compensation strategies. Okay. So the strategy was launched in 2023. What has happened since then? We had a previous one before, but I'm focusing on this one at the moment because this is what we're focusing on as a national level. So basically, it started off with 15 strategic actions and 88 deliverables. We are currently have completed approximately around 65% of these deliverables. And we have two main projects launched from this strategy. I am not going to go very much into the data warehouse, which is evidence-informed, but it's about an early warning system. And I think my colleague before was explaining a bit the context in Sweden, same in Malta. So we had this, we have data collection, and it happens a lot in schools, and the schools have a system. But at policy level, we were lacking this myriad of data that we could use. It was all disregulated data. So what we did, now we have a data warehouse, which is helping us to pinpoint indicators at an early stage. So it's helping also people at policy level, not just at school level. So that was a project first launched as an early warning system. We are still in the development stage of that. So it is launched, we are using it, but we're also enhancing it. Another big, something which I really wanted to share with you today was another big project that was launched in last October 2024, and it's showing a lot of good results already, which might have a big impact on early leaving from education and training. And this is the Family Community Schooling Program. So here we're looking at a whole school approach program, building a robust and methodological link between the school, the family, and the community. For the first time, we were not just tackling the students in school, but we were tackling adults. The salient adults around the students in school, how we've placed a person specifically in school for parental and community engagement. So this person is working directly with adults such as parents, and educators in schools, and they would be flagging students whilst also monitoring the system. So we have our own system where the data warehouse where they will be watching any different risk factors, but they also get flagged and liaised through the school SMT. And instead of dealing with the students, they start with the adults in the picture. Okay, this program was meant to only start in 2 schools this year, but we are actually in 10 schools in Malta already, and we have a very high demand for this program. What are the results? Well, as of start until January 2025, we had 804 interventions. So that could all be targeting ELET at a very early start. And now, up till April 2025, the interventions have gone up to 3,127, which shows how this program is having an impact. Another key component of this program, which we believe is really essential when speaking about early school leaving, is an integrated approach. So we are taking an approach where we are trying to, we know that we have a myriad of services in Malta, and I'm sure in every country there are many different services, but sometimes not every family knows about them, or not every service is pushing to help that child or that student. So we are liaising with a lot of services, got other ministry support, and also are working with see what is around us in the community to try and give the best service possible to that family, not just the student. Okay, some other key initiatives. So that was the Family Community Schooling Program. Some other key initiatives that we are we are working on are the free childcare scheme. So Malta already had a free childcare scheme. However, this free childcare scheme had one particular criteria that was offered only for parents that work. Through our research and in the previous policy, we identified that the most disadvantaged students would be left without childcare, that good qualitative childcare. So they might start school at a disadvantage. So we are currently liaising with stakeholders to extend the scheme to students that come from disadvantaged backgrounds where their families might not work. We are also liaising with a multitude of stakeholders, including the National Skills Council, because of student aspirations. So we believe that targeting at-risk students to develop career aspirations, enhanced career guidance networks may address barriers in accessing post-compulsory education. For intervention, we actually look at all the school results and try to analyze according to the risk factors to see and identify any patterns and how we might support through other mitigation measures. And the last thing that we've done also, we've done now a compulsory, so this is in the compensation pillar, we've opened a post-compulsory education working group where we discuss a myriad of things and actually take action so that we have fewer dropouts from the post-compulsory. Bear in mind that in Malta, post-compulsory education starts at the age of 16. So they are still at that risk that they will drop out, especially when they go to foundation courses. Okay, I believe from my part, I can, yeah. I was about to start the timer, but I never started it, so I hope I didn't.
Thank you, Pamela. You kept the time. Now you have a lot of backup slides because you did a lot of thing in Malta, but it was the focus on this the prevention aspect. Very interesting. We have seen some patterns already. If we come back to the previous presentation, so it's time for questions. Mart, maybe you.
Yeah, well, once again, a reminder to the audience, do not hesitate to also ask your questions. But I'm curious about this family community school link, which you were presenting, and was really some more inspirational, and maybe some clarifying questions about how it really works. So first of all, you mentioned that you have these two people, well, you wanted to work with 2 schools, but then you're working with 10 schools. So is this person that you have put to the school like a specifically trained individual whose full-time job is to do this thing, or is it like a add-on role to an already existing school employee?
It's a totally new role. So it's a totally new role. We've recruited different people. Of course, there was a myriad of research before this. So we've also had European funds to research on the best model that we would be using, and that's why a pilot is now. That's why we call it the pilot phase, because we have the first and second year we're piloting this model, but the role is completely new, and we left it open, like it's more skills based rather than in what we want someone to be qualified, because we've developed our own in-house training.
Okay. It sounds expensive, if I may say also, that...
It's not really. Like, the only resource you need is a human resource.
Yeah.
Human resource, and in-house training, once it was planned, it was okay. It's rather than expensive, it might be limiting if you limit it to, for example, the initial model we wanted to use was to teachers. But like Europe is experiencing a shortage of teachers, so we had to think out of the box, and we said, okay, who would be a best fit? Maybe there were some categories that we would have preferred, but we left it quite open HR-wise, because otherwise we would limit the human resources.
Yeah.
So it's expensive human resource-wise, yes. You need to find the right fit for people.
But it will be very interesting to really see the results when the pilot is over, because in a way, yeah, as you were saying, you know, if this initial cost at the prevention stage yields the results, then you reduce a lot of costs down the pipeline. So it goes a bit into this, even into the social impact bonds type of thinking that is used in the social innovation sphere sometimes. Maybe also one question still on this. You also showed these KPIs of interventions that this pilot has already produced. So what is typically counted on an intervention? Is it one meeting with the parents, or is it something? What is an intervention? Yeah.
No, an intervention is when there's, for example, an action that leads to a solution.
Okay.
So, but we have the key with criteria, and that was also this. I'm smiling because that was discussed at length here, and to come to decisions to that. But they have their key. We have a lot of standard operating procedures. However, we are still at pilot phase, and that's the best thing of it, because we can change. So we're changing. In fact, something I would like to say is that the model is working differently in different schools, and we let that on purpose. So, for example, the frequency is different. We want to identify what's best to have them in multiple schools or in just one school, to have them in some areas but not in others. So yeah.
Then I see Anna, you have also raised a hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My area of interest is like rural areas, because I represent the Ministry of Agriculture in Poland. And my question is whether the rates differ in rural and urban areas of the countries. Doesn't matter whether males or females, but are they different in different areas of the countries?
Yeah. So we have different rates in different areas. And there are areas like, for example, the southern and northern harbor, which are more concentrated. But in recent years, a trend, a signal which we are seeing, and this we've done through foresight and forecast, is that unfortunately it's becoming less evident which areas, because people are moving. So what was before an area that might have had more possibility for school dropouts, now it's becoming something that this is just a signal, so we still can identify the areas, but it looks like that in the future, in the recent future, things might change, and it will be a nation issue. Okay. However, in the different sectors, we have different sectors like private. In Malta, we have private, church, and state schools. So there is evidence that in the different sectors that there's a different rate of dropout also. And that's because though disadvantaged students usually don't apply for church schools, for example, in Malta, because they are at a cost. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you from my side as well. Are there still any other questions to Pamela?
No, there are no immediate questions. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for staying with us, hopefully, and then the way until we have the final discussion, the closing discussion on this topic. After having had two presentations, which were quite strategic, let's say, work on systems and presenting whole systems. We are moving now after North and South more to the center of Europe, where the center of Europe is a very flexible concept. We are moving to Belgium, and with some very practical examples to prevent early school leaving. With Chantal, I mentioned before, Chantal, who made us the honor to be present at the peer reviews and presented very interesting approaches in Eastern Belgium. Chantal, please, it's your turn. Take the stage.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. So I will also share my slides with you. Here we are. And I like to start with introducing myself. So my name, you got it. I'm working with the Institute of Vocational and Educational Training, EIWM, in a German-speaking community for now almost 20 years. And what I would like to say first is that we are all sharing the same challenges. And today, yes, I'd like, maybe I start just with explaining that we are in charge of signing and accompanying apprenticeship contracts. And that's on this way that we considered that we have an increasing figure of broken apprenticeship contracts. And that's why we started some of ESF founded projects, which I'd like to explain in the next slides. If I can go on, I can't actually. Okay, so in 2016, we set up a first ESF project founded by the European Social Fund project, because there was a question about the money. How do we pay all those projects? And we started with BIDA 1. BIDA is a German acronym. And it stands for Vocational Integration Through Training Guidance in Dual Education. And it deals with a custom-made service to young people who are thinking about dropping out early, so who came into the system, who started an apprenticeship, but are thinking about maybe stopping, break the contract and not going on with it. And so we offered personalized help depending on the individual's needs, with a wide variety of support. So it began with a screening of the individual and professional or personal career, the analysis of strengths, interests, and the motivation. And then it went on with the coaching in a new career or education path, or maybe it was just about changing the profession, but then remaining into the system and not dropping out of the system. preparation of individual support and a guidance plan. So how can you actually reach your gains, where you want to get to? Training modules to reduce personal anxieties and weaknesses. And if there was a need, if we couldn't offer the help within our system, then we could also refer to external support services. It's important to mention that the participation in this project is absolutely voluntary. But then we considered that some of the lacks those young people have, they already moved into our system with a lot of lacks that we can't resolve those problems when they're already in the system, which led us to setting up another project, which was called Anlehre, BIDA, the second project for BIDA, which should ensure a better preparation to vocational and educational training, because we considered that too many young people there were not yet ready to start this apprenticeship because they had cognitively problems, they were dealing with social emotional trouble, and a lot of variety of problems with just remains them from focusing actually of reaching their goals. And so we considered that the transition from secondary school to the vocational and educational training system sometimes was too difficult. So we set up this project Anlehre, and we call it in English pre-apprenticeship. And this is 1 year of special classes also already at the VAT school, with 2 days of schools within a week and 3 days of training in a company. And also there we offer individualization of support and guidance, and here too, if necessary, also by external services. And this is already based on existing apprenticeship programs. So if you want to know you want to become a carpenter, then all the school days is part already set on this apprenticeship program of carpenter, for example. And it's focused on practical in-company training. And also we have some targeted language training for participants with a migration background. Here as well, participation is absolutely voluntary, but you need an approval of an admission committee, because your choice of profession has to be done before getting into this pre-apprenticeship. And the original apprenticeship contract, which lasts only 3 years, is extended to 4 years. So pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship take place in the same company, and the company needs to take an engagement for 4 years at least. At the end of this year of individual preparation, those young people have to present an entrance exam to become an ordinary apprentice. If they pass this exam, they will start their 3 years of regular apprenticeship. But if they failed it, we want to lose it, and we set up a third project with a BIDA third. That's Anlehre Plus, and what's about I will explain you in a couple of minutes, because first I want to show you some figures, and especially the evolution of the dropout rates, which changed and get better since we set up those BIDA project and those guidance and this pre-preparation, this pre-apprenticeship. So we have only 10% right now of dropout rates. So this recent project, you see it, we started in 2023, was for those people who still failed this entrance exam and who couldn't start the regular apprenticeship. But those young people sometimes show nonetheless a positive progress, especially in professional skills. And we offer them an additional year where they can work on those professional skills and get at the end of this additional year a partial qualification which is recognized by the labor market. So you just work on your individual support plan, you're still in a training company, and you try to achieve further development also on language skills for those who came in with a migration background. You go on with the methodological training and coaching, and you also have social pedagogical guidance. So I hope you can still see the picture in right of it. That was our first class of Anlehre. In all those projects, we were facing some challenges, and it's to find qualified staff member because it needs integration teachers, psychologists, social pedagogical staff, which is difficult to find. Those are rather time-consuming measures, and we have more refugees with different backgrounds, language backgrounds. And actually, we are still focused on a restrictive group because we could only offer 10 places in those projects, especially in Anlehre and in Anlehre Plus. So we had to select participants. We can't take everybody in it. And there are few participants only. It's possible because we have small staff. And of course, it's rather expensive because of many of individual sessions. It's a lot of individual coaching. So we considered it's even better to prevent throughout, improve orientation. And on this, I also wanted to share some good practices, what we are doing on this. And actually, we got a quite new framework curriculum was set up by Politics for career guidance. And since 2 years now, every single people in a German-speaking community in a secondary school has to do internship in companies. First, just an observation internship at the age of 14, and then a 3 days practical internship at the age of 16. Our institutes offer, since we're doing this now since 30 years, a taster weeks, what we call in German Schnupperwochen. And there you can see the advertisement for those Schnupperwochen. We do it usually during all the holidays, school holidays, where all our training companies open the doors to just get every young people from the age from 15 on. For a couple of days, just 1 day, 2, 3 days, depending on their interest, to actually try out a profession. So to have a real idea what a profession looks like. Somebody who, for example, wants to become a baker said, okay, I wasn't realizing that everything is produced at night. So I don't like to get up early. So no, I won't do this. We also have discovery days and Entdeckertage for younger people, which is the same system, but they are just allowed to do observatory stages, so they cannot also work actually. And we propose also a lot of fair of professions where all apprenticeship professions are showed out also with practical approach, where young people actually can just have hands-on and try out some professions. And that's already all I wanted to share. So I hurried up a bit, caught up a bit of time. Thank you for your attention and hope to see you soon in Osbergen one day, maybe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chantal. Really interesting again. For me, this concept of free apprenticeship was new, and I think you explained it very well why it's there and how it is implemented. Still some clarifying questions, and I'll take the first one, and then we take the other questions. Because this prerequisite was that this student has already applied in a way to the VAT school to start the normal 3-year program. Then how do you identify or like which are the students that should go to this 4-year extended pre-apprenticeship program? So how do you know which are these young people who are more at risk, or so how? Yeah.
Yes, so the first project was for people who were already in the system, and those pre-apprenticeship is if you don't fulfill on the condition how to enter a regular apprenticeship, so you have to have passed a second year of secondary school or a third year of professional secondary school. All those people have to present an entrance exam. And all those young people who failed these entrance exams are possible candidates for this pre-apprenticeship. They go to another screening, and there is this committee who is selecting then those young people who have already a clear idea of what they want to become. They maybe have already an apprenticeship place. And so they are considered to get into this measure of pre-apprenticeship. And then when you're into pre-apprenticeship, you either go on with regular apprentice if you just pass this entrance exam, the same exam again at the end of this additional year, or you're guided to apprenticeship plus. You get another year to get a qualification just for the labor market, but not a full degree, not a full diploma.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. On one of the slides, you also had that you have training modules to reduce anxieties and weaknesses. Could you give us an example? Like what is that module about then in practice?
This is actually there's a large variety of their individual problems. Sometimes we consider that they bring rather hard problems that might be drug problems or just a problem I can go up or show up early or at time somewhere. So we try to work this out. Even sometimes we call in psychologists to work on this. So it's really rather individual support and focused on the individual's problem. So there is really a large variety. So just to give you an example about what problem we are actually talking about. So it's also school anxiety, actually, so that sometimes they are not used to being in large groups. So we try to work on this in giving guidance and coaching and going with them, accompany them first just for 1 hour into a larger group so that they're getting used to our system and how we work. And yes, hopefully then reduce those anxieties.
Thank you.
Chantal, do you see an opportunity to scale up those actions? You mentioned the limitation of staff and so on is makes you focusing on limited groups, but are there any plans to opportunities or at least budget opportunities to scale up?
Yes, the problem is the budget, actually. We try to convince politics to have a second class, thus 10 additional places. But it starts with finding staff, qualified staff, who is ready to just teach and do all this coaching. And then because we need this budget, because it's a rather expensive measure.
Maybe if I can take the last question, Luc, still, and this is on about the last slide where you had these orientation practices, and of course, actually, I don't know how in depth your knowledge is there, but I was curious about the first one, that in this framework curricula that it's now mandatory for the 16-year-olds to do this practical internship for 3 days. I'm just curious on whom relies the responsibility to find this internship position. Is it up to the 16-year-old student, or do schools have contracts with the businesses, or yeah?
Yes, it's the students themselves. And actually, I have a 60-year-old boy, so I was considered by this measure as being parent. And on my face, I can say it was also the parents who were involved in finding those training places and set up all modules. But it's a part of the education that the pupil itself has to find these places in company places. And if I think it's about 500 to 1,000 young people who are looking for places, and fortunately secondary schools don't do it all at the same time, you know. So one school is doing it in the beginning of this academic year, and then another one, and then a third one, and we only have 5 secondary schools, so not every young people has to look for a place at the same time. So, and my guy, he was working for the Belgian railway when he did his internship.
But it's really nice, and it nonetheless still requires openness from the, let's say, business community to take on people, these very quite young people, only for 3 days. So, but it's nice that it seems to be a changing culture, or maybe like a societal practice in a way, even thanks to this new
Absolutely,
framework.
because they're all in lack of qualified staff members, and they understood that they have to also welcome younger people just to start professional orientation a bit more earlier. Even if they can't get into the system, example for this railway, you can only start working with the railway at the age of 18, but they were okay to just have one boy with 16 years, so that the 2 remaining years at secondary school, he can focus on this aim, how to enter the system of the Belgian railway system, for example.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Chantal. And now, Luc, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chantal. Thank you, Mart. Yeah, again, I see we have really interesting presentation. We could go on with discussing them, but our format has its limitation, but it's also an impulse to, of course, to dig further for all the participants. It's not possible to go into all details. What I would like to do now is to invite you to a moment of interaction. I explained a bit earlier that we have collected a series of input through the peer reviews I mentioned, dedicated to the topic and exchanging with the different participants. Had in-depth discussions on those aspects, and we collected a series of policy recommendations. The first slides here that you can see, I will just first show 2-3 slides and then come back to you with our request. Try to put them down into a series of recommendations. So we ended up with 6 main recommendations that you can see here, which address both early school living and the topic of the NEETS in general, because we've seen also from the presentation that it's obviously connected. The first 2 transversal recommendations, the first one is about to get to know the young people. So it's the data. We heard about the early warning system collecting data. We heard about the data warehouse from Malta. And when discussing in other regions, we heard that data might be an issue because of GDPR regulations, which are treated differently from country to country. What we have learned also from those meetings is the importance of having a comprehensive strategic plan, which was co-created and shared by all the actors. We've heard from Gunnar, for instance, today, talking about multi-level governance. We've seen the plan from Malta, which is also good examples. When addressing the early school living issue, we have a series of recommendations that we could group until the heading to put a specific focus on the transition phases. Gunnar mentioned the school to work, for instance. So when you move to school to work, it's a transition, but also when you move to school to vocational education, and all those transitions, which are typically moments when the system can get lose track of the people, because they go out of one system and go into another system, and that's the moment when you can lose the people more easily. The second main aspect for the preventing early school living was the early dropout prevention as early as possible. We heard now from Chantal, And Gunnar was going in a similar direction also, the going to the school, to young people as young as possible. A mix of systemic and personalized approaches, because you have let's say those generic measures, if you remember the old school model, but you also have to take care of some people with some more intensive personalized approaches. So this mix was very important. And if we go to the needs, but we will hear more in detail about that, then the importance of building trust and acting locally to bringing the services delivered to the needs very close to the target group, because the target group is also very diverse. We heard about that also from Pamela. And finally, to allow for different kind of measures, not only putting people into the system, let's say, a dedication work system, but maybe also looking at different measures. So this is what we compiled until now. I will just briefly show for the following slide and then go back to here. If we look no more into the actions dedicated to preventing early school leaving, we have those two major topics, like the transition phase and the early dropout. I won't read them out. We have identified some main principle of actions, like the continuity of support, the cross-sector or the cross-organization coordination, the early identification, the proactive prevention. Early identification, again, there is a bit of overlap here, and the promotion of vocational paths that have a large importance that came out of peer reviews also. And then we have some more details on the transition phases that we can work through that. I will present them, and more details about the early dropout prevention. But I would like to start the Slido interaction. You have the link in the chat by Lotte. You can go there. It's an open questions, which is what comments would you have on the recommendations which are here. So this is very generic. Basically, when you can answer by, you might have a suggestion to add something which might be blatantly missing. You can maybe you can suggest a good practice, a good example from your region. What is done in your region, to give an example. This is also a valid comment to this question. And this is basically, or you can criticize something which you think should not be here. So it's an open question. We try to collect as many input as possible for the next few minutes to integrate them in our list of policy recommendation in our policy brief, which will be published in a few weeks. So this is the workshop part. So I will stop talking for now for a few minutes to let you answer in the Slido, but of course you are also welcome, if you prefer to do so, just to raise your hands and to speak, to give your comments just directly by speaking to the audience. So this is a Slido warm-up for us on the policy recommendations. So thank you to participate, please. I see that the topics coming, so we'll just let you a bit more time. It's didn't spend much time until now on this. Okay, it's only 2 answers coming in right now. Natalija, you raised your hand, please, Natalija.
I'm wondering, at least in Slovenia, sometimes is the law and it is the obstacle. And some sectors, for example, are not coordinated in the benefit of the needs. So it's, for example, we have national law, which is, let's say, the main law about the education. And for example, adult education is not part of the system, school system, and there is no actually proper interaction among all the subjects who belong to the, in one hand, school system, and on the other hand, also, for example, adult education. So sometimes it's very difficult to communicate because some of the actors are not recognized as, let's say, those who should say a word about it. And so it's difficult to communicate because sometimes, let's say, those who care for the laws and everything are not in the way prepared or are not thinking out of the box. And let's say just follow the art of state or what is going on. So it's really difficult to change something on the systemic level. So I agree with all what is written, all the recommendations, but I'm wondering how to move or how to make a step towards that we could somehow overcome some obstacles, because it's usually very difficult to change the laws and those things.
Is it at the level of the law, or is it at the level of the willingness of the organization to collaborate?
I would say both. Maybe also those, let's say, services in the ministries who are not prepared. Sometimes they are just looking what can't be done, for example, not what should be done. And it is sometimes really difficult. And if those services are too strong in a way, who defend the law, for example, it is really difficult to make some changes. And
probably also,
I would be very glad to hear how it's in other places, in other areas in Europe.
I see Gunnar raised his hand. Maybe it's an answer to the...
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I moved to a bigger room.
Yeah.
And I have my colleague with me here as well, Johanna. No, I was thinking about, I mean, it's important to start somewhere and not thinking that this is not possible. That's one thing. Because, I mean, when you're struggling with different authorities and ministries and municipalities and so on, I think to get together a story and understanding on what is the gain for each level, to understand that and see that, okay, we can gain this kind of results on each level, and to discuss those through. I think that's a way to get a dialogue at least. Mm-hmm. We did that, and we did it through mapping the actual problems on the local level. But also to look around in other countries, and as we do now, get good examples and presenting them for authorities and ministries and so on, and start that way. I mean, one example from the Netherlands, as I said, they started in 2007. That was that these figures that we have of dropout, I think they had 30% or something, is not good enough for us. We need to do something, they said. And then the municipalities asked what? And they say, we don't care, do anything. So, I mean, that's one way of doing it, but I think that you could also do some mapping and see how to start there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important point also, Gunnar. We discussed that in some of the peer review, this mapping of actors and go on, and to start is important. It's also what we tried to kick off in La Réunion, also with bringing people around the table, which were normally not talking to each others, and start somewhere, like you mentioned. Meanwhile, we've received some other comments to this list of policy recommendation. So with some different aspects. Yeah, thank you, Lotte, for sharing with us some of the comments. Exactly. So the low cooperation level was mentioned. So there were some answers to that. The vocational orientation was also mentioned. Exactly. And the discovery days, exactly, getting to know and a new thing, partly new suggestion also to provide some methodological support to the experts or to the staff working with the dropouts or potential dropouts. This is also something that we've seen in our in the example from Chantal and discussed in our peer reviews. Yes, you need a team with different kind of competences, and it's not easy, it's not obvious, and it requires to go out of the Natalija mentions the normal framework. So this is so thank you for that. We will try to take it into account, and I will just briefly remind of the peer review, which is a way to dig deeper into those issues. We did that successfully in some regions. So this is also an option. We are getting close to the time of the break, and so maybe we just can do one more step. Just looking at the timing and the question. So I would just ask maybe Lotte, if you can open the last questions that we have foreseen. We will have not time to go through all the slides, but the question is about if you had to invest €1 million or 1 billion euro, you can choose the amount you would like to invest. Where would you put the money and why to reduce early school leaving? What would be your priority? So we can directly see. I let you think a few moments on your answers, and let's see what you might suggest. And our speakers are welcome to comment too, obviously. Maybe I will just retry also while people start typing. Gunnar, where would you put the million?
Yeah, we were discussing in the team and me here. We say that to provide it for training for personnel in the schools, we would say, to be able to see earlier and to know what to do with data and why we are working with that kind of data and so on. why it's important. That's one thing that you could do with 10 million. And 1 million is not that much, you know. When it comes to
it depends if you count in euro and krones or
yeah, be a little bit more than so no, but I think that education and training is very important in this question.
Teacher training, like we can see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Chantal, where would you put the million? Then we can ask Pamela. Where would you put the million? Pamela, you're still here?
Sorry, I'm here, but
Chantal is here. Yeah.
Just I was responding on the Slido, and I had to come back on this.
Okay. Sorry, I took you by surprise. I know. Yeah.
I would create smaller groups. I really liked an idea we were presented at La Réunion. We got the info of this micro schools, this very tiny school groups, only a couple of people, where the teachers had plenty of time for every single student, also to have a holistic approach and to include also the family and all what was needed. I really liked this idea, and with 1 million, I would set up this this micro school in the German-speaking community.
Yeah, and we heard from La Réunion that it was actually very efficient, and the results were really good. And I must say also, I was there at the meeting, and when the director of this micro schools presented the project, it was highly emotional because it was a very nice presentation. I see here teacher training came give you the money directly to young people. Starting very early stages. School lunch, this was a topic, for instance, in La Réunion. We heard from them the region was paying lunch for the students. The vulnerable parent caretakers, the parents to be, yes, so all going into the very early prevention. Pamela, maybe also from your side, do you have an idea where you would put 1 million euro? Pamela doesn't hear us right now. Parent education supports, a lot of that. School lunch, yes. Thank you for commenting that. Okay, thank you for commenting this and for providing this feedback. So we will integrate that in, as I mentioned, our policy recommendation. I suggest that we close here the first session of this workshop according to the agenda. It was planned to give you some time to breathe and to rest between the two parts of the meeting. We will be back at 3 o'clock with the next set of presentation. You can just stay in the room. You don't need to get out and come back. Please stay with us for the second part. We have another 3 very interesting presentations coming up with Anders, Natalija, which you already seen from the question, and Diana, who will join us shortly, about reintegrating NEETS to the labor market. And I promise I will not take the first 15 minutes to present the policy learning services or presenting anything else. We will go directly into the topic. So see you all back at 3 o'clock. Thank you. Great. Okay, so my colleague started again the reporting. Maybe you can I would just ask the participants to give me a sign that you are here. Maybe you can quickly put on your cameras that we see that everybody is here. People are getting back. It's or of giving a thumbs up. Thank you, Gunnar. This is fine too. I see. Yeah, it seems to work. I see different thumbs ups and so on. So I think we can. And the chat is used. Okay, great. People are getting back. We have not lost many, I think, during the break. So this is good. We just a few words of introduction before I give the word to Anders. So we are moving now to the second session of the workshop, which is more focusing on how to reintegrate the NEETS into work, into education, or vocational education, and so on. We will have 3 speakers in this session. The first one will be Anders, who will talk about the Youth Guidance Centers model. Then we will have an example from Slovenia, from Natalija, how they work with in the project learning for young adults. Very detailed project and strong project in Slovenia. And we finally will have an example from Croatia, in Šibenik, from Diana, how they have. It's a very specific and a smaller approach, let's say, to reintegrate NEETS into work in the IT sector. Diana mentioned that she might be a bit late. She's not with us yet, but I hope she will be able to join us till our presentation time. Anders, please take the stage.
Yes, thank you so much, Luc, and thank you for inviting me to this meeting. And I also very happy to see many familiar faces from peer reviews. Nice to meet you again, friends. Well, I will now start my presentation. See if it works. So this is my hometown.
You need to go, Anders. Yeah, no, it works. Thank you.
I think it works. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is where I live, in Stockholm, but I'm working actually for the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region. You can see the symbol up to the left. And I think several of you, I remember Gunnar Anderzon mentioned this with the importance of working multi-levels and also cross-sectorial and also actually transnational, as we do now today, because dealing with preventing early school leaving, dealing with the group of NEETs is a complex societal challenge where we definitely need to work together to learn from each other and maybe develop solutions together. And I'm representing a policy area within the EU strategy for the Baltic Sea region, one of the 4 macro-regional strategies in Europe, where we are working exactly this way, cross-sectorial, multi-level, and transnational. And the policy area that I'm working with is dealing with both education, science, employability, and integration. And we are 2 policy area coordinators, one in Hamburg and one in Stockholm. And we work with 4 different actions in an action plan that consists of 43 actions for the whole strategy, and actually 4 are in our area. And one of them, preventing early school leaving and improving transition from school to work, is what we talk about today. And how do we implement these strategies? Well, we do it through platforms for collaboration or collaborative. Sometimes we refer to them as flagships. And here you see School to Work that SALAR, Swedish Association of Local Authorities and Regions, are coordinating. And you see also that we work with some other new initiatives, the latest one actually on active citizenship that we are planning to launch. In the action plan, we have this text. I will not go to details, but you just see that it has been decided by the governments of the 8 countries in the Baltic Sea region, the 8 EU members, that this is an area where we really need to concentrate our efforts to find solutions to lower the number of early school leavers and also in the group of NEETs. So how to be successful with reintegrating NEETs in the labor market? Well, we have been doing this and working with this since 2013, when we started to work on this topic. It was then introduced in our action plan. We have had different activities to build knowledge, to understand. You heard a little bit also the same approach when you listened to Gunnar Anderzon on the preventing early school leaving. We have done the same when it comes to the NEET. We have prepared a NEET agenda that was published in 2020. It's also on our website. And here we have been in dialogue with stakeholders. And I think that is very important to have this kind of mapping, to really understand the challenges and to understand also the differences, because certainly NEETs are not a homogeneous group. There are very different reasons why a person become a NEET or happen to be in this situation. We have situation in our region where we have people that are, basically playing games in the basement of their parents' villas. But it can also be people that are engaged in criminality and living in a gray or black economy, etc. So there are very different people with mental health diagnosis and challenges, etc. So to understand the group of NEETs is certainly very important. To understand the NEETs in your area, in your region, is also in particular important. But what we saw that was actually a common solution to this, a way to work with this challenge, was to work with so-called youth guidance centers. We started to learn about them quite early during our learning from 2013. We saw them in Finland. They call Ojamus in Finland. We saw them in other countries in Europe, in Hamburg, for example, where they have Jugendberufsagentur. And we started to understand that this to have the competencies gathered under one roof, instead of the young people having to go to different agencies when it comes to money, when it comes to social services, or when it comes to healthcare, or when it comes to help to get the help with the job, etc. To really have a more focus on the NEET themselves and their individual needs. So this was something that we started to say, okay, we collect the different good examples, and then we build a center of excellence, just a model for how can we do this in the very best way. So we started then, and we have developed this, and I will soon show it to you, the model that we have. So some reflections, 3 of them now for these 10 years, or actually over 10 years working with this, is the importance of build trust to the youth in each situation, to motivating them to get help for change. They are not that often aware of that they are NEETs, that they are in this situation. Maybe they live a life as a criminal and feel that it works at the moment, or they sit to play games and feel that it's quite comfortable to sit in the basement. But this is something we need to reach to them, we need to motivate them, we need to invite them to get help. These multi-competent teams with different competencies providing individualized support is very important. As I said, no one is actually the same. I mean, there are differences, and we need to have an approach where we have a more individualized support. And what we also have learned is that mentors at the workplaces are very important, because when former NEETs are placed in a internship or get their first job, it's very, very easy that they drop out from that, because they are not used to work. They are not used to get up at 8 o'clock and work until 5. They are not used to have the same responsibilities. So to have a mentor in the workplace is also a finding that we have learned about. So this picture is maybe difficult to read, but I will guide you a little bit through it, and you will definitely get the presentation afterwards. You see the one-stop shop, or this guidance center in the center, where you see that the different services are gathered and where all the connections are linked to. So basically, this is the service that you have also in a municipality or on a regional level, and how they communicate. For example, you have the marketeers that are building trust to the community of needs and help them to come to the center. You see also the use here of parents and sports trainers, etc., civil society organizations. These are examples of marketeers. Then you see the workplace mentors, you see to the left, where you have this support when they get the internship. You see employer organization and trade unions. You see the role of municipalities and also how it communicates to the national level. And we know now from Poland that are implementing this. They have 170 different youth guidance centers, and they are connected to the national level. So there is like a team of where you have this communication. And you see also that there are action research that are following it and collect the learnings. So this is a model that now has been further developed and now is being implemented in Lithuania, in Poland, and it's further developed in Finland and in Germany it exists. And we are now in dialogue also with Swedish government and state agencies on introducing it in Sweden. They have had something similar, but actually now we need to reconnect to this idea. So finally, some policy recommendations, thoughts about this, and certainly this Youth Guidance Center is one of them. And here are certainly learnings from, as I said, several countries that have introduced this, not just in the Baltic Sea region, I should say. And also this recommendation on building, and you can say like an ecosystem where you can identify and support them to be with in the neighborhoods where you have needs. If it's problems in suburbs in our biggest cities, to have people that maybe have been needs before that are meeting them and building this trust. We call them marketeers. They can be social workers, they can be sport trainers. It's very important. And then finally, what I've said now a couple of times, to make sure that when you, as a NEET, enter a labor market, that you really get the help you can to stay there. I have one example. I'm not sure I will be able to present it now, but I put it in my presentation. Here is a link to the first Finnish youth guidance center in the very north of Finland, in the city of Oulu. And it's really good example. It's in English, and I recommend you to study if you're interested in this concept. So thank you very much. This is the island of Gotland, if you haven't been there. So this is also in the middle of the Baltic Sea.
Thank you, Anders. And as I had also seen your slides in advance, I had wondered where is this wonderful picture from. So thank you for letting us know. Thank you also for the presentation and giving a good overview of the work you've been doing and the main learnings from these past 10 years. I also encourage everybody, once again, as we did in the first half of the workshop, to raise your hand if you have any questions, or write to the chat if you have difficulties with using the microphone. But maybe I would ask from my side then, and you touched upon it already, this building the trust towards the needs to sort of approach them, and you mentioned these marketeers. Sounds still very complicated in a way, on how, like how do you artificially find this marketeer who would somehow go and talk to the young people and then build up trust? So have you found like a good solution on how this has worked the best in a way?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, I would say that it's not so complicated. It's building an ecosystem, a supportive ecosystem. I think it can also work very well with preventing the early school leavers. I mean, you have trainers, if they're football trainers, for example, that have a good relation to young people. They also know a little bit that, okay, this is obviously a person that is not going to any job or school and is hanging around. He doesn't feel well. They are marketeers. It can be someone that is a social worker As I said, it can be former NEETs that you organize in a way that the municipality is basically hire these people or the public employment services. So you can choose different models. I know, for example, in Finland, they work a lot with the civil society organizations to be the marketeers. So that through the organizations, they find the people. I know also that in some countries you work also online. I mean, many, as I said, play games in the night, and how you can via the, how to say, internet trace the people that are outside. But certainly it's even if you trace them, it's not that easy to motivate them to search for help. So this is the tricky part, certainly, and I think that this is also something that remains to be done to train the marketeers. And we are thinking about now building a network in the Baltic Sea region for these youth guidance centers. And I think this kind of focus on the marketeers and their professional skills, I think, is something that we will work on.
And I guess besides the skills, also the sort of knowledge sharing. So if, let's say, I'm a football coach, and I notice that I have this one kid that somehow, as you said, lingers around and is not part of the system, then whom do I tell about this, or how do I approach it? So it is in a way one part is skills, but then it's also like, what is the ecosystem around, and to whom do I somehow, report? Maybe it's the wrong word, but if you understand what I'm trying to say is.
I think they are connected to the youth guidance centers, so that they are, and I think the Finnish model is also very good because they are not saying that the centers are just for NEETs. It's for all young people under 30. So you don't need to have this stigmatized that, okay, you go into that door, you are a NEET. So it needs to be a communication between civil society and the youth guidance centers to avoid this, that you are going into an institution. And if you look at now I couldn't show you this website, but if you go to this website for Byströmska in Oulu in Finland, you will see that it doesn't look like a state agency. It really looks like a youth camp where you can go in and feel this is for you and your age.
Thank you, Anders. Then Natalija, I see you have raised your hand.
Do you have any data about approximately average time the youth spent with you in general, I would say? How much time they spend with you?
Yes, this we have in the different countries. So we don't have it collected for all 8 member states, but there is it's a very good report from Finland that I have seen, but I also have one from Germany, from Hamburg. So I could also send it to Luc afterwards, so you could share it with the rest of the participants.
Thank you, Natalija, for the question. Maybe one more, if Anders, I may. You also mentioned the very important aspect of these mentors at workplaces, or support in general, once the NEET has entered the workforce, because the chances of, let's say, dropping out from that process is very high. And then, you talked about this need for mentors at workplaces. So is this something where in some of the member states, you also see that the public sector somehow, pays a stipend to the mentor within the company, or how? Because I could also imagine here that the company needs some support on how to be a good mentor, but also mentoring as on top of the other work activities that my usual employees have. So are there some incentives or guidance in place that you have noticed for the workplace mentors?
No, but that's an important question. And actually, when we started with this building this model some 10 years back, we thought that this would be a bigger problem than it's turned out to be, because there are quite many employers that have a corporate social responsibility, feeling that they want to contribute, they want to help. And once again, I think the only thing is that we need now to also offer some kind of trainings for them, because what we do and what they have done, these centers, is that they invite them and they have some introduction, etc. But it's usually very committed employers that are offering this, and it's still more work to be done, because, as I said, once again, they are not similar. They are different. The needs, they have different needs, and this is certainly something that is sometimes possible to handle for not a professional, but sometimes they certainly need to reach out in order to get help from a professional if they end up in a situation with someone that have some mental issues, etc.
Thank you. Then Luc, maybe I'll give the word to you as well.
Yeah, we're just looking if there are additional questions, but I think it was very interesting also to hear from Anders the different countries that apply this model, and you mentioned Lithuania. I know they are involved in the one of our project at work for NEETS, which I mentioned at the beginning, and they have those regional career centers, I think they are called, and that's a very interesting practice. I hope it will be available soon on the good practice the database. And there's a lot to learn about that. Thank you for introducing us to the model, which I mean, it sounds like an obvious solution to some extent, but when you look in the details, to bring all those services into one place, the one-stop shop, it requires a lot of motivation and willingness to move beyond some of the usual borders of providing services. It's not so easy, probably, in practice to do.
No, it's true, Luc, and also that all the agencies, they have their own corporate culture, and it is a challenge. I would say financing is also. I know many have used European Social Fund to start them, but I think the success story is really now, I mean, Germany and Finland and also Poland, where they have managed to transfer it into the state budgets. So they are not depending on the ESF. But this step to go from ESF into the state budgets or municipality budget, that's the tricky part, certainly.
Yeah. Thank you for those insights, Anders. We might see you back at towards the end of the event today. I will come back with my €1 million questions probably. Then we can move to Slovenia with a presentation from Natalija on the PLYA project. Natalija, I know there's a lot happening in the PLYA project, so we will give you the opportunity to talk with the questions, to talk about different aspects of the project. Please, it's your turn. You can see the slides, all works fine. Go on.
Okay, Lotte will help me with this. So first of all, I would really agree with Anders that this is question of how to get state budget, because we in Slovenia Institute for Adult Education, we are, let's say, struggling this question about NEETS almost 30 years. And still our program or principles of this, how to work with NEETS, are still in the, let's say, state of the project. So it's not good. However, I will present, I can speak about the strategies as such in political strategy or something like that, but I will present some principles we use in the project learning for young adults. And then we will see. I can see some common things with previous speakers, so maybe it will not be so something very new to say. However, what is project learning for young adults, for whom it is established? Basic definition of participants would be low educated NEETs aged 15 to 29. And on the other hand, there are also students at risk of dropping out of the school system or vocational training or whatever. And those are younger, 15 to 19. It is during their, let's say, school. But all these years, we somehow find that individual students differ significantly in terms of their needs, and which are based mainly on their current situation, which is really different. it's not starting. It is not the same in all cases, even at first glance we could say this. But however, we try to during the years, we somehow find out that it's very important that we are addressed students' strengths. So the question is not what is missing, but is what power do you have inside you? So, but however, we found out that there is a lot of social emotional challenges, physical and mental health issues, economic vulnerabilities, immigrant backgrounds, and so on. As you said, risky life patterns and so on. So, but what is, next slide, please. What is most important is that we try to not, when they enter to the program, we are not telling them you should continue your schooling or you should find a job, but we try to help students to flourish individually, also in the group, to find the joy of life. So, because some of them are really dead in a way, so they should be somehow animated to find something that is joy, what they are interested in, and so on. So the next step is to we somehow talk with them and to make some, let's say, program for them, individual program, or let's say some learning plan or career plan. The main mode of the learning is project-based learning, which is innovative, and it is based on real-life problems. So what is important that they are students themselves as a group or as individuals somehow define the problem. So the first question is, what is problem? So we define the problem and try to find some solution. In this way, we, let's say, encourage the students' creativeness, and also learning become meaningful. So the next, what is important is that we expand their social networks. Usually we found out that they are lack of, let's say, proper social emotional capital. And so they don't have in their networks people who would help them in a way, in a proper way. So what is important that we are set this learning project in the local environment and invite some local experts, also work with some institutions. And in this way, participants step out of their, they are not anonymous anymore, and they could present themselves in very creative way and so on. Next slide, please. But the first, what we should somehow change in our minds is that no one is out of strength unless she is dead. So this is very, very important, and it was really difficult to somehow that mentors who are trained in a way that they start to believe in this youth. So even they are fall out of school, even they are out of interest, if, you know, it is, we dig sometimes very deeply to find something what is really important, or because they usually they don't know. If you would ask them what are you interested in, they would say, oh, I don't know quite, and so on, you know, all the the things. So what are improvements? They start to believe in self, believe in others also. Somehow emotional regulation gets better, and also they start to become more engaged in learning and somehow searching for solutions. So this is starting point to observe students to find something what they are good in. Next slide, please. This career learning plan, as I already mentioned, it is always created in consultation with mentors. Even the students are somehow, let's say, responsible for it. They are somehow made in the consultation with mentors. So it is always, you know, they have, let's say, they are students meet with mentors once a week in the individual consultation, and they go through the week, for example, what has changed, what was good, what should be better, what are the next challenge, why, and so on. This is kind of, let's say, open discussion. Even it is, we prepare some questionnaire for mentors so they can go through with students. Okay, next. So there are 4 pillars of effective practice because project learning is quite effective program. 75% of students somehow achieve one of the 2 main goals, either to continue the schooling or find the job. So what is important? That we create some supportive group dynamic and this personal career or learning plan, some innovative, flexible and life-based learning, and also intersectional collaboration. Maybe next slide. Maybe also next, move on, please. What is a problem with youth? Anders also talking about it in the beginning of his presentation, that policy somehow divided problems into sectors, and sector functions very close. They are close. One is for social policy, one is for health policy, and so on. And young people often do not find their way to the sources of help that are, let's say, available to them. And even they are getting this help, they do not know how to connect them, how to link them together. And so the function of very important task of mentors is that they somehow work with each person separately to define the support and also make connections with the, for example, if they are in labor services, there is a consultant of the student and they work with them. If there is social center, let's say, help, they will work. If there is a doctor or some medicine problems, they would work with them. So mentors somehow connect those fragmented sectors support into one back. But it is also important what is going on during our experiences, that these links we established somehow create, or there is, of course, synergies that are created, but on the other hand, also institutions get opportunity to reflect about their performance and to improve them. So, but as I asked in the beginning of this session, how to connect all this if there are some obstacles in legislation and so on and so on. So this is really a hard question. Even we know everybody that this should be somehow organized. It is not, it is really difficult to overcome something what is, let's say, set it with some, let's say, borders among some sectors. However, this would be, and I would finish with this. It is very important that those mentors who work with the students are somehow trained. And so it is our task of Slovenian Institute for Adult Education. We prepare for the initial training, and they are also somehow interviewed before they step in the program. So they spend 92 to 96 hours in basic training or initial training, and also we organize every year 32 hours, let's say, in-service training, also annual meeting, where we meet also with other stakeholders. This is most of all people from the Ministry for Labor, Family and Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities, and also National Labor Services, and 12, let's say, directors of 12 providers of this program, and also mentors. So we discussed what was going on in the past year and what is needed, and so on and so on. So this would be, maybe I would say also who is, maybe the last slide, please. The program is financed by European Union, and 80%, and 20% is from state money. There is 12 providers all over in Slovenia, and each group has 3 mentors who worked with 15 to 24 students. In each group, some intersectoral, let's say, extended expert team, which are, let's say, help particular student in his issues or her issues. So there is also our institute, Slovenian Institute for Adult Education. As I said, we somehow we develop the project, the program, and also care for, let's say, monitoring and mentorship training, and following common trends, and evaluate all the things. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalija. What I really liked from your presentation were some of the way you phrased it or contextualized the topic. You know, you were saying stepping out of the anonymity was a really nice phrase I catched. So then also, of course, trying to help to find the joy in life, maybe not putting that you need to get employed as the first point, but you start with overall helping this individual who, from whichever reason, has, as you know, dropped out of the system, so to speak, right? So I really liked that. Maybe a clarifying question, perhaps I missed it. So how many students are involved in the PLYA program?
It is 15 to 24 per group. Yearly, I would say in all 12 groups are between 300 to 500 people. They can stand for 10 months, but let's say average stay is for 6 months. More or less, they stay for 6 months. But the program is going on every day. So in the, let's say, afternoon, from the, let's say, from 8 to 2 o'clock p.m.
Okay. I also have some questions about this project-based learning.
Yeah.
So I understood that it's about real life problems. Are these also then identified jointly with the young person that they would come and help figure out the problem they would like to start solving? Is that how it works?
Yes. So it could be, for example, these are really nice projects which are connected with the problems in their communities. So, for example, one of these projects we did this year, it was all, let's say, in all providers, we did, let's say, project about education for peace. And all of them somehow thinking about the peace, not only, let's say, there is no war or something like this, but very broadly. So we did together film or movie, all 12 providers, all 12 groups. So we meet, or there is other problems too. Maybe something what is very local, let's say, actualities that are typical for localities and so on. So it is, let's say, Freire pedagogy in a way to name the world, we would say.
So there's usually one local group, all the students work on the same project and the problem, or they're like, can they also be individual?
Yeah, they have both. This project learning, project-based learning could be, one is they work all the group, all students in the group, but they also have some individual or personal projects. So it is somehow intervene, it is not always, but it is very important that there is kind of, let's say, group cohesion, because in this way they find also, because they are very lonely usually, they don't have friends. Maybe they have friends on the internet or when they play some internet games and so on, but usually they are very alone. So it is what they stress, the students themselves, they stress that they find people who understand them and who can do some, let's say, important or meaningful things together. So it's very important to find new friends.
Thank you. I think this answers my clarifying questions. So again, I encourage the audience to ask also your questions, but otherwise I would give Luc the word to you, because I see you have also unmuted yourself.
Yeah, before we move to the next speaker, just briefly, I wanted to ask you, Natalija, as long as we can see questions, if you have quickly some few figure statistics, what are the young people doing after the participation in the project? Or...
Yeah, according to external evaluation, there were made 3 external evaluations. Usually most of them continue the let's say schooling, or to get some vocational training or some. It is around 50%, and 25% they find some job. So it's not always but somehow the evaluation in 10 years ago, they find out that these results are, let's say, it's not something, it is meaningful their life. Somehow they are stay in the line. They are not drop out again.
Okay, very good, very good.
Sustainable. The results are sustainable, I would say.
Yeah. And also the last question of understanding from my side, you mentioned it's about learning, project-based learning. Is there any kind of certification in of what they learn?
Yes, the program is non-formal, however, but somehow every student prepare their own portfolio. So according to this portfolio, they get certificate, which is non-formal certificate, but could be they could use it when they search for employment or whatever. It is very important that they prepare their own portfolio and get some certificate where is written what they did in this period when they were included in the program.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Natalija. Very, very interesting. Also, I can also tell that the PLYA project will be mentioned in the policy brief. It is one of the good practice, the artwork of NEETS project. So we'll talk about that. Thank you. We hope to see you also towards the end of the session. And we move to a country not too far from you. We make a small step from Slovenia to Croatia with we go to Šibenik, where we will meet Diana, who joined us some time ago already. She was not able to join us at the beginning of the meeting, but she joined in between. And again, like in the first session, we will try to have another perspective and Natalija will present us an interesting project implemented in a hometown, how to bring people back to work in a specific sector. Diana, please, it's your turn. Take the stage.
Thank you, Luc, and thank you all for this opportunity to share what we do and how we do for the NEET in Šibenik in Croatia. So I'll share my screen. Let me see. Let's put it to. All right, hopefully this is okay.
It works. We can hear you well, and the presentation is in full screen mode, please.
Perfect.
Go on.
So hi, everyone. My name is Diana Mudrinić, and today I will present to you what we do in Šibenik in Croatia. Šibenik is a small coastal city. It's important to mention this in the perspective of NEETS and everything that we do. And it has roughly 35,000 inhabitants that live here. But it's also important to state that it is mostly based on tourism up to a few years ago. So as part of trying to change the perspective of Šibenik from being a tourist, more orientated city, one of the projects from the city of Šibenik was also founding Trokut Šibenik, which is what I'm representing today. So basically, Trokut Šibenik is an entrepreneurial center. And as part of the entrepreneurial center, it's important to state that something the size of Trokut did not exist in Šibenik beforehand. So it was something completely new for this area, not necessarily obviously new for globally in general. However, we opened in 2020, which was quite challenging, considering that it was obviously the pandemic era, and a lot of the way that people work and the way we approached work has since changed. So we opened up in 2020 as a business center, as an entrepreneurial center, and primarily as a co-working space. We currently have over 100 tenants in different companies in our space, and we have 3 locations today. However, when we first started, and especially during COVID, it was important to show that Trokut is more than just a building. It is more than just a space, because we wanted to give an opportunity to form a community. We wanted to form a community of businesses, of entrepreneurship. But in order to do that and to offer, obviously, office space, we had to show, okay, if we have the infrastructural elements, we are missing the community elements, the soft elements of it. And part of that, a big part of that is education. I won't dive too deeply into the business educations that we hold as a part of our incubator, since that's not our topic. Our topic is other more informal types of education that we hold as part of our center. So before I go into NEET, this is obviously pictures of how our space looks like, just to give you an idea that we try to really, really work on building the community. So before we dive into the NEET, I wanted to say that our education actually started with our STEM programs that we aimed for children. So we call them Trokutići every Saturday. So it's every month they have a different topic. We cover from Legos to artificial intelligence, 3D modeling, and so on and so on. So the idea is to provide education for every generation that is part of our community, and to address different issues. So this is one of the type of educations that we do for children. As part of that, we became last year a regional science center as well, one of the first four in Croatia. We worked heavily on educating the teachers in order to educate the children for STEM areas. We have different STEM classrooms, STEM parks, and different summer camps and year-round workshops. As part of our regional science center, we do focus on children in STEM, but we also work with elderly, precisely with people who are 60 plus, to integrate them for digital literacy in the area of technology, so they can understand how to use from social media to different governmental online applications and things that actually exist and that they actually need, whether it's to do with their doctors or just regular bureaucracy. So that's part of the elements that we do with our regional science center. And what we do with our NEET Academy, and this is why I'm actually here today, it's a natural step forward on our other activities. So when we first opened up, we identified that, okay, we do have specific companies, they have their needs, they have the areas of expertise, but they are missing workforce. At the same time, since it was COVID and it was the pandemic, on the workforce situation, since Šibenik was mostly a tourist city, jobs were primarily seasonal. So they usually had jobs, in the summer when it's the season. Mostly we have most of our tourists. But the pandemic showed a new chapter that we cannot just solely focus on tourism. Obviously, it is not sustainable in the long term and not necessarily the correct answer. So this is how we came up with our Trokut NEET Academy. So the idea behind NEET Academy is basically connecting unemployed youth, connecting companies that need workforce, and putting them actually together in our facility. So what we did is, together with professors from the local polytechnics and universities, and together with individuals who actually work in the exact field, we primarily focused on IT. We combined a curriculum for different areas. So we did business analysts, data scientists, full stack developers, and front-end developer. So we managed to make a program that is very, very intense, but also offers these individuals without any previous knowledge. I think that's quite important to add. So we don't expect from these candidates to have any kind of previous knowledge. They don't need to go into any IT technical school. During this 6 months, as part of our program, we provide them with all the knowledge that they need so they can be hireable by the end of this academy, which usually lasts 6 months. So we publish a public call through our local media and through our social media platforms and different ways. And we usually get a big amount of people who apply. And then we do testing with them just to see who's actually motivated, because it's not so much the knowledge that they have and whether they can necessarily think in that way. It's, do you have the motivation that is necessary for a 6-month academy? So the academy is, like I mentioned, between 4 to 6 months. 4 is our new version that we're doing. I'll mention a bit about that. So during these 6 months, they go through a very, very intense academy. It takes place a few times a week, and they can attend via in our space, or they can also attend online. Although we do prefer for them to be physically in the space, because they manage to interact with the professors and with the teachers in a more intense way, and they feel more open. The groups are usually around 20 participants, up to 24, 25. That would be our maximum. And what is specific about the academy is those same companies that I mentioned earlier that needed the workforce, they are actually our partners during this academy. So the program usually lasts 6 months or 4 months. In the last third of their academy, so if it's 6 months, it's easier to count. So the last 2 months, they are focused solely on developing their own product. So if it's in IT, it's usually some type of application or some kind of coding that they did on GitHub or some type of website. And with this, they can then use it to apply for jobs because they have an actual product that they made and that they stand behind. That's what they do during those 2 months. And also they go for internships at the companies that are our partners. And during this internship, they also get a hands-on experience, what it actually means to be a data scientist or front-end developer, et cetera, et cetera. Combining this internship opportunities together with their theoretical education has proved to be very, very fruitful. And over around 80% of our participants by the end of the academy actually have jobs. The other 20% either have company businesses that they went back to or just life. I always call that literally life because different things can happen. But roughly 80% of them get hired, and I think that's a really good number from our perspective, considering obviously that they had usually no previous knowledge. So as part of our education, what are 4 areas that we primarily focus on? Obviously, it's skill development. So they get essential skills, everything that they need. So when AI came out, we intervened and we made a new course as part of this, as part of the one that they were attending, to implement AI and what was happening at the market at the time so that they're completely ready for the market changes. We try to get them employment ready. So they have their product. We go with them to create a CV. We do like mock interview trials so they can kind of relax themselves and be better at the interviews itself. The community aspect is quite important. So the community that they create as part of themselves within the group of the cohort that's part of the academy is important, but also the academy takes place in a co-working space and they automatically connect to an even larger amount of people than they would perhaps otherwise. And the obviously sustainability in the terms that it has to be aligned with industry trends and what the participants need, but not just the participants, obviously the partners that are part of this academy as well. What we learned so far, basically what is super, super important, and it's not always easy to identify when they do start, is do they have enough motivation? And I can't stress that enough because oftentimes, and I've heard the previous speakers mention it, they often have low confidence or they're not necessarily connected with their community. It's really hard to get them out of their shell, but that's part of why we do a lot of mentoring during these 6 months. So we have bi-weekly meetings and monthly meetings with them, but they're not like meetings as too strict of a words. They're very relaxed. Chit-chats would be perhaps the better description of that. And putting them as part of a community has proven to be super important because even if they don't find the job, even if they're not in the 80% that maybe got hired, they still come to our co-working, they still stay in contact, they come to different meetups that we do and events. And I think that's very important because then that also gives them an opportunity to be part of the wider community and they don't feel so alone, they don't feel isolated. And that's definitely one of our main goals here. I try to keep it short. I know we had a fairly short time slot, 10 to 11 minutes. I hope I didn't go overboard, but I'm more than open to questions.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. It was excellent. And also, I think bringing a bit different perspective, or at least the origin of the story starts more from the business community than what we maybe have heard so far today. Also, as a side note, I think this is also an example of the nice Interreg Europe community that we have, because the way Luc and I found out about this good practice that you presented came from another peer review. Nothing to do with NEETS at all. We were talking about the setting up a regional open innovation hub in Veliste, Latvia in January this year. And we just had Petar Mishura from the city of Šibenik as one of the experts there. And he had, different slides, different things he was conveying to us. And just even almost in passing, he mentioned this NEETS focused activity that you do in your facility, and one thing led to another, and here you are. So the presentation was really, really interesting. I was curious about this some of the other speakers talked also about this socio-emotional competencies that are important for this target group. Is this something that you also address formally in your program?
Well, we try to combine their needs. So when we say that we do in group work with them, it's not the whole entire cohort. So we kind of divide them into smaller groups depending on what are their needs. So we try to kind of figure out in that sense, but the motivation is not easy. I think that's the most important part. And in order to motivate them, you don't want to be too strong on. You don't want to put too much pressure on them at the same time. So sometimes what we do, we'll take individuals from previous academies and then just pair them up to say, well, you know what, I was in this situation, I get it, or, it's not easy, it's your 20s, you don't know what you're doing. And it's a lot of pressure from different sides, from society, from family, from different angles. So we try to pair them up with different people that we think could give them that extra boost, that extra kind of a oomph that they need to make the step forward.
And exactly in the same slide that you're showing now, my eyes got this flexibility in pace made a big difference. So does this mean that people somehow can go through the program? Some go faster, some go quicker, or what does this mean?
Yeah, so since we don't do any prerequisites in the terms that they need to know a certain topic or certain knowledge beforehand, often the teachers will identify the ones that are maybe a bit ahead, and then they'll give them extra assignments or different ways of engaging with them while focusing. So if those are that are ahead, they're working on their assignments, and they'll focus more on those that are not as ahead as they would like to be. And this definitely did make a big difference, because also if you feel like, okay, I don't have any previous knowledge, but I'm looking at John there and he's doing fantastic, and what about me? We try to kind of mitigate that feeling, because we've all been in school, we know the feeling for different topics when you don't feel like you're on par.
Yeah. And then I have one more question, but in the meantime, again, encouraging others to also think of their questions or look to be ready to take over from me. But I understand that the high school diploma is a prerequisite in your program. Have there been ever discussions about reducing this threshold as well to get already those who dropped off in the secondary school phase? And
it's something to think about. Definitely. We don't require obviously higher education. We do high school, but we do accept 3-year high school, or it's a specific model in Croatia. I don't know if other countries have it the same way. So we have high school can either be 3 years or 4 years, and then it divides into different categories of gymnasium and so on. We found that having high school education is the only necessity that we kind of need, because if you finish only grade school, there is a possibility that you might not be so familiar to use computers. So we do need basic knowledge in computers. So you don't need to know obviously HTML or anything, but basics in the sense of connecting to a Zoom call, emails and stuff like that. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you. So Luc, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mart. I'm losing a bit my voice, but I should be okay for the last half an hour. I don't know why. Thank you, Diana, also for this very interesting presentation. Just a quick question: do you have any insight on, let's say, post-graduation statistics? Do you have 80% people they find jobs? Are they doing well? Are they developing well in general? Do you have any? But because you're in contact with the business community, you probably hear about that.
Yeah. Well, as far as we know, they're still going strong. So we're happy to hear that. Actually, one of the bigger benefits actually of this academy was that so Šibenik is a smaller city. It's not a capital. It can't offer the same things as a capital could, like Zagreb. But most of these people actually stayed in Šibenik, which is amazing. So they didn't move to a different country or a different city. They stayed here. So for that reason, we're actually in contact with most of our participants. And as far as we know, they're really doing well.
Yeah, thank you for those insights, Diana. This also addressed well the discussion we had in some of our peer reviews. We were discussing what's coming from Anders or Gunnar, those ideas to have vocational education or vocational trainings which are very close to the needs of businesses and provide very quick, short paths to job opportunities. So people are not looking at 3 or 4 additional years or whatever. It's 4 to 6 months and a high chance of getting a job, which is maybe less risk of losing them on the way than if you have long jobs. It might not fit for all the sectors, but yeah.
No, for IT it works, but that's actually the reason initially all of our educations were 6 months long. And then we decided to revamp it and change it a bit. So now we're pushing towards a model of 4 months and more specific topics. So once they pass the academy, they're more ready for the market and faster.
Yeah, thank you for that. We wanted to have this example, which we liked a lot. Mark mentioned to have those programs outside of the system, let's say a bit outside of the system. It's not against the system, but okay, there are ways, there are also ways to lead to work or education. Thank you for that, Diana.
Thank you.
And I mentioned before, when discussing with Diana, I was in Šibenik not long ago, but did not visit her, but it was a mistake. I need to go back.
Next time, Luc. I think we have a lot of serendipity going on here.
Yes, so we'll be happy to do that, even if it's for vacation.
Yes.
Will take the risk.
Thank you.
So we'll move to the last sequence of our meeting. We have some 15 to 20 minutes to spend together. It's thank you for all who stay with us. So I know those online workshop formats are a bit long. We prioritized it this time because it was difficult to find also two different time slots for having 2 different meetings. So we were happy to bring the community together. I would like us, like in the first part of the meeting, to go back to Slido to look at our policy recommendations. I do not ask you to comment again this slide, just to remember we had different recommendation, transversal recommendation, 2 recommendations focusing more on preventing early school leaving, and we had 2 recommendations here which are more related to the needs, so reintegrating the needs into education, work, or society in general, because you mentioned that, Natalija mentioned, Diana mentioned, it's not only about work or education, but it's also about bringing those persons, those young people back to a life path which is interesting and for them. The 2 recommendations about building trust and act locally. This was also heavily presented in all the presentations. Let's say it's the motto of the youth guidance centers. But it's also what Natalija explained about the PLYA project. It's also a bit and we have the innovative measures, or the out of the box measures, which one of them maybe there are others. Of course, we heard from we're not able to talk about all type of measures, but what Diana brought also into the picture, that there are different ways to address the issues. And for both topics, we have identified a series of recommendations from those peer reviews and the good practice that we have. If we look at building trust, acting locally, some of the action principle which have been listed here is about the proximity of the location. So it's to provide the services where they are needed. The trusted outreach, we mentioned. I think, Anders, those are a bit your marketeers, the different youth ambassadors, the role models, different people that out of the community can influence and help to build the connections. safe and attractive spaces. You mentioned this nice space in Oulu, for instance, as an example of how those people can. Just showing it. I hope you can see it. This is the youth guidance centers in Oulu. Getting back to the presentation, and tailored approaches, which it was very explained in a very detailing way by Natalija, the profiling, the building on understanding the needs and the strengths of the young people. But also the local employers. This was very, very important. And building on that, we developed a series of recommendations or actions that could be implemented. So beyond the wording, which your own wording might be a bit different, I would like you to comment on those key actions. Lotte will launch the Slido, and I would like to ask you to comment, take a few moments to look at this and to comment, and give us your feedback on those actions. Possibly suggest additional good practice. You might know something that is missing, something that needs to be better specified. Just take a few minutes. And I hope there is enough energy in the room to do that before we move to the conclusions. So the Slido is open. You can start typing, and I will just apologize myself for 30 seconds. I need to leave the table to get a glass of water. I'm back in 30 seconds. I see we get the first answers about including local stakeholders to encourage community building. Anders, you are one of the few ones with the camera open. Are you typing or an answer?
Yes, I'm typing, but I can speak also. Yeah, no, but when I'm looking at this, I think that what strikes me is certainly the importance to invest in measures, invest in, I would say, structural changes. I think there is no individual measure that you can just say this is the key, because this is complex, and certainly I touch upon it. I face a lot of situations where these are just project driven, that it's just for example ESF plus that is used, and when the budget is over, the government is not taking over the financing. And that's why I'm very happy with Poland now that pass a law. I think it's actually tomorrow they pass a law to introduce the youth guidance centers on the state budget. And I think this is what we need to do in the countries. We can't stick to just projects. We need to have a more long-term, let's say, change of our way of working and invest in working with the group of needs.
Thank you for this point, and I think this might be one of the conclusions of the meeting. The point we might take, because it was raised by Natalija, working for 30 years on a project base in Slovenia, and not able, the country or whatever reason, not able to go to the next level. And it's also what we try to at least to address a bit in La Réunion. You might remember, because the challenge of the regional council in La Réunion was to bring the other stakeholders, like the Ministry of Education, let's say, and mainly in the state, to move beyond the usual borders of actions and to integrate the work, to reduce early school leaving and to reduce the number of needs in a common budget and common actions, which we've seen it's very difficult, very difficult process, obviously. Gunnar, I see you have also something to say about this.
Yeah, I was thinking about to have this kind of a long-term key actor in on the national level. I think also is important, not only through financing, but to hold on and hold out, to speak, and be persistent to do something good for these groups. Because I think that the politics and policies are changing all the time, but you need someone to hold on. And I know that this is not easy, but still, we can see that. I mean, both in, as you Anders said, in Poland, where the government has actually stepped in, but also in Lithuania, where they are innovative and try to do things outside the box, even though it's the PES that it's running it. So I mean, I think those kind of initiatives are really important. Also to be able to build capacity in the future. So yeah, and also financing through ESF has been really important for many member states, I would say, in these questions. And those allow and also encouraging countries to take on this kind of challenges. So yeah.
Thank you, Gunnar, for this. Natalija, you raised your hand also, I see.
Yes. What is the problem also in Slovenia, I would say, is how to reach those, because most of them stay out of any institutions, those needs. So, for example, just only 50% of needs are somehow registered in the employment service, National Employment Service. So it's difficult to find them in a way because they are, as I said, they usually do not know what exists in society in institutional level. And so it is the question, as you also mentioned, Luc, of outreach, how to reach them in a way in the places where they are. So it is going with to build the trust. I think at least from our experiences is that those youth usually do not trust in institutions. And as Diana said, they are lost in a way in a space, and they do not know how the system is operating and so on. So this is very important that we try to build bridges among all those, not just institutions, but also NGOs, which work at the streets and so on. And it is also very difficult. And also, what is another problem, at least in Slovenia, is how those mentors who work, who has knowledge, and are, let's say, they are graduated in different occupations and so on, but they somehow are not recognized as a new profile of, let's say, educators or something like that. And there is a lot of problem about the salaries, about the status, and so on. There is a lot of work. They are not permanently employed, and depends on the projects, funds, and so on. It's really difficult because you start something and then money is gone. There is not enough money, or there is no money, and people lost their jobs, and so on and so on. So it's quite important to raise the question about the status of educators or counselors who work with this group.
That's a new point. Yeah, thank you for this, Natalija. And as you mentioned, all those topics we discussed a lot in those peer reviews. It's about those way to reach out to the peers and the representatives from Lithuania. They explain those. They even have some mobile teams. Let's say people having some like a minibus or something like this, and going to remote places to reach out to the people, talking to the people on social media channel. I think Diana mentioned social media before for the recruiting, and but not only for the recruiting. There are that those organizations can also move to the channels where you can meet the young people. And I think also Anders mentioned also those. It's not only talking about to NEET, to talk to young people in general, to reach the young people in general, not like putting a mark on the people like you are NEETs, and nobody wants to be something which is perceived negative. We had
Luc, I would just mention one detail in how to reach them. We oftentimes had actually parents and grandparents call for them, because or not necessarily even call for them, but share the information with them, and then they would reach out to us. So I think also in while communicating or trying to reach out to them, it's not necessarily just them, it's also their family or whoever's around them, to tell them that something like this exists. So we really had like a lot of cases where we say, oh, you know, my grandma was listening to the radio and she heard of this, and then she told me to apply. So there may be just interesting information.
And that was exactly the point, because you cannot expect those people open the door of an institutional building almost mostly. So thank you for this. We are getting close to the end of the meeting. We aim at closing on time. We also have some follow-up meetings with some help desk meetings. I would maybe just ask our speakers, at least, which are still with us, maybe some concluding words from your side about. You've all been working with the issue, or most of you, for a long time. Maybe Diana, it's a bit more recent with Trokut Academy. But if you see some changes, recent changes in the issues, for instance, the post-COVID area, and where do you see maybe the policies or your initiative, in which direction do you think they will go in the coming years? Something new, or will we do more of what you are doing already? What would be your perspective on this? So I don't know who wants to start. Diana, you seem to be nodding. So
Well, it's nodding and trying to actually put in perspective your question, which is actually a really, really good question. I think that a combination between formal education and informal education is something that we'll see more and more in the future. I think that's a future trend. If nothing else, from the perspective of IT and technology, it changes so rapidly and so intensely, it's often hard to implement it into formal education on time, or for it to be relevant at that point in time. But I think combining informal education with formal educations, with the universities and high schools, and doing some kind of a hybrid version, I think is the right way to go. Also, as part of a similar kind of parallel, we are a regional science center, and we worked very closely with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Regional Funds as well. And when speaking with the Ministry of Education, we came to the conclusion that they obviously have their role and, grade school, kindergarten, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they also stipulate that as they do have their curriculum, and in their curriculum, they also have IT and all of these type of education. But as part of that, it's also always important to do this informal education. If nothing else, for those highly skilled or talented individuals, or for those who simply got lost in it. So I think a hybrid version, a synergy between the two.
That's a good point. I will take it up in the policy brief, I think. Looking at the screen, I think we'll Natalija, a minute or two, briefly.
I think the NEET problem is intersectional problem. It is in one way it is a local problem. On the other hand, it is also a global problem. For example, in Europe, where we have, let's say, demographic winter, the challenges coming with the youth who are migrant from other part of the world. So it is another challenge we should somehow address, because it's not the same. There is a lot of open questions. There is no time to express them all, but somehow the question is how those policies, which are, let's say, live in drops, put together. And so there are I've heard today some interesting models, but this is, I would say, my main question in next period, I would say.
Thank you, Natalija. Chantal, can I also reach out to you?
Yes, you can. Because as I was focusing more on the individual approach, I think it will get more and more individual in the future, because society is getting more and more complicated, especially after COVID. And young people are not used anymore to stay focused, to stay concentrated. They have a lot of problems and troubles if they come to us. And they have a broad variety of needs, and which needs individual approach to leave nobody behind. And labor market shows it clearly that everybody is needed on the labor market, because we lack so many qualified staff.
Yep.
We have to make effort to also help those people. I remember when I was younger, then nobody cared about those kids. Yes, they were left behind, but society nowadays may not longer accept this, and labor market needs also those people.
Yeah, thank you. Good point also. Thank you for that. I think Pamela has left us. Turning to our Swedish guests. Anders or Gunnar, some last words?
Yes, well, my comment is it takes a village to raise a child. I definitely think that we need to create an ecosystem that is supportive. We have forgot that, and I think that is it's not just for the public employment service, or not just for the municipality. We all need to contribute here, and I think that's possible from the examples that we have heard today, but also seen that it's possible to have this kind of ecosystem also to support. I think also that it's changing. The needs are also, the group of needs are changing. We see also, I mean, as I already said, these people sitting with their computers and playing games is a new group that I've seen since these 10 years I've worked with this. The other one is the migration, the refugees basically that is coming, that has also changed the landscape of a group of needs. So there are definitely things that falls for this. But positive is that I can just spend time to say that when I visited one of the Baltic Sea countries 10 years ago and asked about how many needs they had, we don't have any needs, they said, just we haven't seen them, so they are not here. and then now they are actually very actively implementing policies. So the politics have seen the needs now. That's certainly something positive.
Okay, thank you. Gunnar?
Yeah, I won't be long. I agree with Anders there. I think that we have come a bit further now than it was 10, 12 years ago when I started working with these questions. And so that's positive. On the other hand, I would say that I would challenge the school organizations and the schools to be more flexible and coherent, because we have those youngsters we have, and we will have no others. So that's the chance we have to do something good. And I think that to be able to do this within schools instead of afterwards would be a good thing to achieve, actually. So I thank you. And I thank you for this conference and for a good initiative from Interreg and you, Luc, and guys.
Thank you very much to you and to all of our speakers. It was great collaboration. It's a bit long meeting, I know, but it was for us really interesting. I hope you also took something out of it. Also, you are quite specialists. So we will close now, but the closing, the satisfaction survey will pop up. It's nice if you still have the time to fill it in. And I will get back, so you will receive the information when the article about the event is published. It will be automatically sent to the registered participant and so on. And from our side, of course, we will work in the coming few weeks on finalizing this policy brief. So I will get back to you. You will be informed that when it's published and so on. It's probably not the last time we discuss about this topic. We see it growing. We see the topic of the mental health issue, young people with mental health issues is coming more and more. So we probably meet in some different occasions around this topic. But thank you to all the participants, to all the speakers again for being with us today and to help us delivering those meetings to our community. Thanks a lot. Have a good week. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.